There's a particular kind of exhaustion that some people carry. It's not the kind that comes from working too hard or staying up too late. It's deeper than that. It's the exhaustion of someone who never really got to be a child. Maybe you were the one translating bills for your parents at age 8. Maybe you were raising your younger siblings while your mom worked 3 jobs. Maybe you were comforting your parent through their breakdowns, becoming their therapist before you even understood what therapy was. Maybe you just learned, very early, that your needs came last, that asking for help was a burden, that you had to figure it all out on your own. If any of this sounds familiar, this video is for you. Because growing up too fast isn't just about missing out on childhood. It's about carrying weight that should never have been yours to carry. And it leaves marks that most people can't see. Growing up too fast has a name in psychology: parentification. It's when a child is forced to take on adult responsibilities, whether that's practical stuff like paying bills and cooking meals, or emotional stuff like managing a parent's feelings or keeping the family together. But it's bigger than just one term. Growing up too fast happens in a lot of ways. It happens when you learn to read the room before you can read a book, when you become fluent in managing other people's emotions before you even understand your own. It happens when you realize, earlier than you should, that the adults in your life can't always protect you, so you'd better protect yourself. Some kids grow up fast because of poverty, watching their parents struggle and knowing instinctively not to ask for things. Some grow up fast because of illness in the family, becoming caregivers when they should be playing. Some grow up fast because of addiction, violence, or mental illness in the home, walking on eggshells, managing crises, keeping secrets. And here's what people don't tell you. You might have looked fine from the outside. You might have gotten good grades, been responsible, been the good kid everyone praised. People probably said you were mature for your age, like it was a compliment. But inside, you were running on empty, playing a role, holding yourself together with duct tape and sheer willpower. So what does it do to you growing up too fast? What are the invisible wounds you carry into adulthood? First, there's hypervigilance. Your nervous system learned early that safety requires constant monitoring. You became an expert at reading faces, tones of voice, shifts in energy. You learned to anticipate needs, prevent problems, stay 3 steps ahead of disaster. And you can't turn it off. Even now, even when you're safe, your body is still scanning for threats, still braced for impact. There's this deep belief that you have to do everything yourself. Asking for help feels impossible, not just uncomfortable, but genuinely terrifying. Because when you were a kid, there was no one to ask, or the people you should have been able to rely on weren't reliable. So you learned, I'm on my own. I have to handle this. And that belief becomes so hardwired that even when people offer to help, you can't accept it. You don't even know how. You might struggle with setting boundaries. When you spent your childhood managing other people's needs, your own boundaries got erased. You learned that your job is to accommodate, to make things easier for everyone else, to shrink yourself so others can expand. And now, saying no feels selfish. Taking up space feels wrong. Prioritizing your own needs feels impossible. There's often this weird relationship with rest. You might feel guilty when you're not being productive, when you're not fixing something or helping someone or pushing yourself. Because rest was a luxury you couldn't afford as a kid. Survival mode doesn't come with breaks. So now your body doesn't know how to relax, doesn't trust that it's safe to stop. And then there's the achievement trap. A lot of people who grew up too fast become overachievers. Success becomes your identity because it's the one thing you could control. You couldn't control the chaos at home, but you could control your grades, your performance, your productivity. So you push yourself relentlessly, but it never feels like enough. Because deep down, you're still that kid trying to earn love, trying to prove you're worth keeping around. One of the most painful parts of growing up too fast is the loneliness. Not just being alone, but feeling fundamentally different from everyone around you. When other kids were worried about homework and crushes, you were worried about keeping your family afloat. When other teenagers were being rebellious and messy and figuring themselves out, you were being the responsible one, the caretaker, the adult. You couldn't relate to the carefree innocence of your peers because you'd never experienced it yourself. And that loneliness often follows you into adulthood. You might feel like you're watching everyone else from behind glass. They seem lighter somehow, more able to trust, more able to play, more able to just be. And you're wondering why everything feels so heavy for you. Why you can't just relax like they do. why you're always waiting for the other shoe to drop. There's also this thing where your trauma isn't always recognized as trauma. You didn't go through one big catastrophic event. There was no clear villain, no obvious abuse. Maybe your parents did the best they could with what they had. Maybe they loved you in the ways they knew how. So you feel like you don't have the right to be hurt, like your pain isn't valid, like you should just be grateful and move on. But trauma isn't always loud. Sometimes it's quiet. Sometimes it's just the steady erosion of childhood, the gradual understanding that you're not allowed to be a kid, that your needs don't matter as much as everyone else's. And that kind of trauma is real, even if no one ever saw it, even if you barely acknowledge it yourself. Let's talk about how this plays out in your life now. In relationships, you might find yourself always being the caretaker, the one who gives and gives while struggling to receive. You might choose partners who need fixing because that dynamic feels familiar. Or you might avoid deep relationships altogether because letting someone see your needs, letting someone in, feels too vulnerable, too risky. At work, you might be the reliable one, the one everyone depends on. But you're also burning out because you can't say no, can't delegate, can't admit when you're overwhelmed. You might be climbing the ladder of success while feeling empty inside, wondering why achievement doesn't fill the hole it was supposed to fill. You might struggle with your emotions. When you spent your childhood managing everyone else's feelings, you learned to suppress your own. Anger feels dangerous. Sadness feels indulgent. So you push it all down until you either go numb or explode. And then you feel guilty for exploding because you're supposed to be the calm one, the strong one, the one who holds it together. There might be physical symptoms too. Chronic tension, headaches, digestive issues, insomnia. Your body is still carrying the stress you couldn't express as a child. It's still braced for emergencies that aren't coming. So how do you heal from something you've been carrying your whole life? How do you give yourself the childhood you never had when you're already an adult? First, you have to acknowledge what happened. This is harder than it sounds because you've probably spent years minimizing your experience, telling yourself it wasn't that bad, that others had it worse, that you turned out fine. But you don't have to compare your pain to anyone else's. Your experience matters. What you went through was hard, even if you survived it, even if you're functional now. You have to grieve. Grieve the childhood you didn't get to have. Grieve the innocence that was taken from you. Grieve the kid you were who deserved protection and got pressure instead. This grief might feel overwhelming, but it's necessary. You can't heal what you won't acknowledge. Learn to feel your feelings without judgment. This is a practice. Your emotions aren't problems to fix or weaknesses to overcome. They're information. They're part of being human. You get to be angry. You get to be sad. You get to feel without having to justify or explain or immediately fix it. Practice asking for help. Start small. Ask a friend to listen. Ask your partner to take something off your plate. Let someone see you struggling. It will feel uncomfortable and wrong and scary, but that's just your old programming. The truth is, needing people is normal. Leaning on others is healthy. You don't have to do everything alone. Work on boundaries. This is probably the hardest part because it will feel selfish at first. But boundaries aren't walls. They're not about keeping people out. They're about knowing where you end and others begin. You get to say no. You get to prioritize your needs. You get to stop fixing everyone else's problems. Find ways to play. This might sound silly, but play is how we reconnect with the part of ourselves that got lost. Do something just because it's fun, with no productivity attached, no goal, no purpose except enjoyment. Be silly. Be messy. Let yourself be bad at things. Let yourself just be. And consider therapy. Not because you're broken, but because you deserve support in unwinding patterns you've carried for decades. A good therapist can help you separate what was yours to carry from what never should have been your burden in the first place. Growing up too fast doesn't mean you're damaged beyond repair. It means you're incredibly strong, but you're also incredibly tired. And you deserve rest. You deserve support. You deserve to finally let yourself be taken care of. The childhood you lost isn't coming back. But you can give yourself something better. A life where you're not constantly bracing for disaster. Where your worth isn't tied to your usefulness. Where you get to be both strong and soft, both capable and vulnerable, both responsible and free. You deserve better then. You deserve better now. And it's not too late to give that to yourself.